Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to continue our configuration to install more services. Like in the last video, you have seen that we have installed the SQL Server Management Studio, and we have created our first database, which is great, and it was working on fine. So in this video, we're going to take the next step to install the reporting services. And what reporting services does, it will help us to present the data back to the business through the report format, and it is a very useful service to produce the operational and up to some extent to analytical reports, because obviously we are gathering, we are processing, transforming, and preparing the data, but obviously there is something that we can use to present that data back to the business. So we are going to use reporting services. Keep in mind that in the industry, Excel, MS Excel, a lot of sheets, Power BI, all these analytical tools, Crystal reports, they are all used to present data back to the business. And reporting service is one of the tool. Obviously, it is part of SQL Server stack and provided by Microsoft to its user. The license has been included within the SQL Server cost, so that's really a great feature for using SQL Server reporting service, because if you go to Power BI, you obviously have to purchase the licenses based on the number of users, and then the licensing model is different. But with SQL Server reporting services, if you have the SQL Server license, you don't need to purchase the additional license, and there are a lot of advantages of using reporting services. So let's get back into the virtual machine. And if you remember in the last video, we have installed SQL Server Management Studio that asks us to reboot our machine. So I did the reboot and I'm going to log in again. So let me put the password. And one more thing, in the future video, what I will do, I'll export the image of this virtual machine and upload into the shared drive. So you guys, if you want to use the same virtual machine like which I'm using, you can download and you can literally import it into your own machine, and everything will come as part of the package. So that's the beauty of the virtual box, right? You don't need to repeat those configuration if you don't want to spend time. But if you would like to build the whole environment by yourself, you are most welcome, because obviously it's going to give you a great learning at your end. So let me wait till the whole server comes back, and you can see there are bunch of components which are loading at the moment. It is asking me there are updates which are available, because I remember I stopped the automatic update installation, which is very safe, because sometimes these updates they create big troubles on the production server. So it's always better to review the updates before you install them on your server. Let me go to the full screen. Yeah, I think we are all good. Let me click on that. I'm not interested at this stage. Let me close this one. And now I'm loading the SQL Server Management Studio, just to making sure that now everything. Okay, one more thing, you can see on the right bottom side, my SQL Windows operating system is going to show you how many days have been left before the evaluation time period lapse. So it will be a good indicator. And you can see I have plenty of days, like 174 days are more than ever enough for me to test the capabilities of SQL Server and all the scenario which I would like to execute, which is a really great service or great piece of software that Microsoft has provided to us. Like 180 days is a handsome time, like it's almost 6 months that you can use the product without any cost. And the best part, it provides you all the feature without any issue, right? Microsoft is not going to charge you anything, which is obviously a great from the learning perspective. And during 6 months, whatever use cases you are trying to execute, once you execute, you finish it, you just document and skip them out or prepare the release, so you can put it first in the development and then check the things. There are many things that we need to check. I will discuss it once we reach to that part, and then we go to the staging, and then we'll release into the production, right? But I think that in this time, that there's something that is really great. Like, we don't have any issue in implementing things which are coming into the market. We can use the valuation edition, we can use the free edition to do the testing, which is great for everyone from the learning perspective. Now, coming back to SQL has been loaded. I'm going to connect, and I do believe, yeah, an update is available. Let me click on that. I'll do it later. By the way, every time it's gonna remind me. If you looked at the SQL agent job, is disabled, and that job is responsible to run all the jobs that we configure on our SQL Server, because there are many jobs. For example, we have the backup job, we have our own custom defined job. For example, if you want to run a particular store procedure, if you want to run bunch of store procedures or functions, or not even that, even a solution or even an ETL package that we want to automate, that can run over the night and move the data from one place to another, that's all sit under the SQL agent, right? So that job must be running on server all the time. We can obviously put an automatic start on this service, like the database engine service. You can see it has been started automatically. We can do the same thing, and theoretically in production or in the Azure environment, we see these services, they start automatically as soon as we spin up the server. So just a point, so you can see our database is persisted, like we can see the database, nothing has been lost. Before I go towards the reporting services, I just need to make sure I have all my data copied. No, I didn't copy that data yet. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually copy all the databases that we are going to use for our analytical or development purposes. But before that, because in this video we are installing reporting services, so let me get back to the point, and I'm now going to. So I have still the guest editions. Let me mount my SQL and run the setup. And now I believe you are quite familiar with this setup, that what it's gonna do. This time we are not going to install the database engine, because our server is ready. From the database engine perspective, we are able to connect to our server, which is great. Now we are going to install a couple of additional features. And if I go to installation, you can see I want to install SQL Server reporting services, and I'm going to copy that link because I prefer to. Yeah, it's all good. This browser is no longer supported. I know. I'm going to install Edge very soon. So thanks for reminding me. Let me open Google Chrome. I'm going to download the reporting service installer. Keep in mind, reporting services is no more part of the database installation. It is available separately, because for somehow Microsoft is now giving us reporting services separately as a service. I'm not sure. I have to check whether the licensing agreement has been changed or not, which is obviously going to be a trouble if we want to use it as a free product. If we only have the database engine purchase and we want to use the free reporting service from Microsoft, I believe it's still available free of charge, but if not, obviously we need to look at how much cost is going to cost once we build and give access to our user to see the data. But at this stage, I think we are good. Let me download the installer. You can see the installer is downloading the SQL Server reporting service. It's going to finish in a moment. It's done. Let me now come back in here. I think I have installed the Microsoft Edge in the last. No, I didn't. So that's fine. I'll do it later. But now let's run the reporting services. Let it. So you can see the installer's outlook is quite similar. So that's really good and professional. The branding that the each installer is following the same layout and pattern. So you're not going to confuse, that every screen has a different starting screen, which is another professional move from Microsoft. So let me click on install. Yeah, I'm going to actually like the SQL Server, you can either install the evaluation, which is gonna expire in 180 days, or you can use the developer edition, which will not expire at all, but you cannot use it for any production work, right? Let me reiterate it. Do not use the developer version of SQL Server or any component of SQL Server for any sort of production or business oriented work. If Microsoft find it out, you are going to be in a big trouble, right? And morally, it's not allowed to you to use a software product if the company is not allowing you to use it, right? It's very common, right? If you want to use it, go and purchase the required service or software and then use it, right? Which is obviously the pattern that civil society follow, right? In this case, we are not going to produce any business oriented work on this machine. It's all about learning, so we can use the developer version. By saying it, I'm going to click next. Here I'm fine with the licensing terms. If you have time, you can go through and you can read the license, and if you find anything interesting, please put it in comments. I would like to know, but I'm going to accept it because I don't have any other option. Let me click next. Yeah, so the database engine has already been installed. There are a couple of reasons why Microsoft is asking for installing the database engine, because reporting services or reporting service engine, whatever you want to call it, it requires a couple of databases to perform its operation. So that's why it needs the database engine to be installed first. So once we start configuring the reporting service, it can place those databases on the database server, right? So in our case, considering we have already installed the database server, so we are good to proceed with install reporting services only. I have selected it. Let me click next. And now we are reaching to the installation location. Considering we only have one drive, so we are not going to change the default, but obviously if you are keeping all your DLL on a separate drive, please feel free to change the drive letter in here and point to the folder where would you like to install. Let me click install, and that will start the installation process, which I believe is not going to take much time because the reporting service is quite a lightweight application, which is really good. But by saying lightweight, it's not like light application. It's a very powerful application, and we're going to actually use it a lot, especially where we build the where we build the operational data sets, or where we want to produce the operational outcome. And up to some extent, we can also utilize it for some of the analytical outputs as well, especially, if we are producing the data from Cube. The only thing where it doesn't shine, if we need the dashboards, because Power BI is really great in terms of, displaying the dashboard, the tiles, and, the graphics that help business to, to see the patterns, to see the trends, and all these graphical charts and graphs, right? So reporting service is still not reaching to that point. And obviously it makes sense, because if they convert reporting service into Power BI, who's gonna purchase Power BI, which is obviously making sense. So I think we are pretty good with the installation. You can see now we are reaching to the setup completed screen. The next step for us is we are going to configure report server, because we just installed the binaries and the configuration of the reporting service is still pending. So let's hit configure reporting services, and it has opened the configuration screen. Obviously, we are going to connect to our server, and you can see whatever database server we have put, the instance is coming automatically. The default instance is coming under the server name. But if you have more than one instances and you want to connect, you can, click find, and it's going to actually show you the other instance, or you can even copy paste the instance, right? And let me quickly show it to you. You can see the server name is matching in here. Reporting service instance SSRS, we are going to use that. All right, so we can see the reporting server status. It is started, it is running, but we need to do some additional configuration. We are going to use the built-in account, which is obviously is a dev playground practice, but in production we have a dedicated account which have limited permission on all the systems which we normally use, right? So what we'll do, we'll use the virtual service account, the account which is running the reporting services. We're going to stick to that, but in the production we normally create a separate account and limit its permission, so nobody can use that account to do the damage to our production environment. Web service URL. Reporting service provide the web interface for us to run the whole reporting operation. So it has two major components. One is obviously the report server interface, where you can see all the reports which are running and sometimes the outcome. And the other one is more like the report interface or software interface, where you can see the folder structure, your report, how you can do the configuration and all these things. So what we are going to do, we are going to configure our report server and we are going to listen on port 80. By the way, if your port 80 has been used by any other application, you might have to change the port number in here. Otherwise, it might impact on the other application. It's a very critical point. Keep in mind, guys, that if your port 80 has been used by any other application or other service, please change the port number, right? Or because on my machine it has not been used, and in the future video I'm going to show you at one instance where I might change the port number for another service of SQL Server. Once we reach there, I'll just remind you the thing there. We are not using HTTP S certificate because it's a playground or I would say dev environment for us, but obviously if your company prefer to use the SSL or HTTPS instead of HTTP, please go ahead and use the certificate that will legitimate or put additional security on the URL. So I think I'm all good. Let me hit. So you can see the logs are showing you the messages in here. So all the directories has been created and we have our URL is up and running. So let me try to open it with the Chrome. I try to avoid Internet Explorer at this stage. And keep in mind, that's the first time we are loading, so it's gonna take some time. It's not the reporting server or SQL issue. It's more like the .NET DLLs, right? Once they load for the first time, they take some time, but as soon as they are refreshing the memory, then the subsequent calls are faster than the first one. So give it a couple of seconds, hopefully, and it will load the interface. So we are pretty good in here. And now let's come and configure the database. So let me just click change database, and it will open the database creation wizard. We can even use the existing one, and now you can see that there is an error for the reporting service. We'll see why this error is coming, although I do believe we should not see this error, but maybe because we haven't configured the database, that's one of the reason that is showing that the object reference not set to an instance. We'll revisit it shortly. Okay, let me create the new database because we don't have any existing reporting server database. Click next. I'm going to use, there are a couple of options. We can use the integrated security, which is always the recommended way. My machine is not connected to the Active Directory, so that's why I'm using my local account. But in real-time scenarios, in the industry, you're gonna have your Active Directory account, and you normally provide the Active Directory account and password for the connectivity, right? And that account has limited permission, so nobody can abuse that account. Keep in mind that that's one of the production practice. Let me hit connect. Yeah, we are all good. We are able to connect. Yeah, report server, and you can see I can change the database name, which is going to be used behind my reporting services, but I will keep the default name, and obviously it requires the temp database as well. And now you can see the purpose of the temp database, which is coming even a part of these SQL Server services as well, right? So it's a very powerful concept to using the temp space for our actions. Languages, United States reporting service mode is native. They used to have SharePoint mode, which I believe they have retired now. So we only have one mode, which is native, which is available. Credential, we are going to use the default service credential for connectivity. We can use Windows and server as well, but at this stage we are just sticking to the default. But like I mentioned, in the production we normally use Windows credential for the authentication, as well as if we are reading the data set from external locations. So obviously we need an account that can be used to authenticate the request first before it can access to the data sets, right? So those location obviously require some authentication, and we can either provide the service credential for approving the access, or we can even use some default some different account in here which we believe have access to all those database server or even file location which we are using to data consumption. But let me stick to the service credential and let me hit next, and then summary. I'm going to see all the selections that I made. One thing you have noticed up to this point, that the whole SQL Server stack is deeply integrated with Active Directory, right? And there's a reason, because obviously Active Directory is a source of authentication which we use to manage all the security and access to our assets, right? So that's really a powerful thing. If we are using SQL Server, or even if we are using Azure, all your Azure machine, they should use the Active Directory based authentication. It's very rare we will recommend to use SQL Server until unless you don't have any other option, but always keep the SQL Server authentication to the last, because obviously it creates additional overhead on people. Obviously they need to manage additional accounts, and there's a it is based on the password, and you need to keep the password, and there's an additional policy that how many times the password has been changed, right? So that's not a very good, I would say, architecture if we are using more than one authentication type, right? Just a side point to let you know. We are good because all these steps are successful, and you can see the same thing in here. We are pretty good. And now we are going to configure the actual interface of the reporting service, which we are going to use for our interaction, right? And you can see it's the virtual directory is calling reports. We will see how it looks like in a moment, but at this stage I think we are not going to do any additional change, except if you want you can change the virtual directory name, and that will only impact on the URL, and you can spoof that URL. Theoretically, even we don't need the colon 80, because normally the server is reading the traffic default on port 80. Let me click apply, because I think everything is done and ready to go. So I have clicked on apply, and the configuration has been placed. You can see that it has done a couple of actions on the report server, and reporting services are now rebooted, and it has finished all the configuration. Now we have the link, which is previously deactivated. Now it's activated, and it's asking us to use that link to connect to our reporting services. So there we go. We have the reporting service interface up and running. We can create new reports, and let me also now show you. I believe that error is gonna go away because the database has been in place for us. While it is loading, let me load the. Now you can see we have the clean empty instance of the reporting services. We can create the new report, we can create the new data source, data sets, we can create mobile report, which is a big move from Microsoft, that previously the mobile reports were not available, but now considering the mobility and the device is penetrating in the industry very quickly, so Microsoft is providing the mobile interface as well. So if someone wants to see your report within the mobile device, it's going to actually adjust the layout based on the device scale or settings. We can upload the existing reports, we can manage the folder. There's a full introduction to the reporting service, which we're going to do later, because we don't have any data set which we can use to build the report, and that's why I'm going to revisit it later, because that is just the configuration. So you can see that error has gone, because like I mentioned, we have now database in place, and we have finished our configuration. And if I come and I refresh my databases, you're gonna see 2 new databases has been added, and these are again the system databases which we can see in here. What I'm going to do, let me just let me take out some things which are not interested. Collation, let me remove collation as well. We are not going to, but what we are going to do, let's see. Yeah. So there's an important thing, like if you want to see whether your database is a system database, which is obviously theoretically a no-go area. So you can see there's a column which refers whether the database is system database or not. Like if I go in the system databases, you're gonna see all these databases. Theoretically, it should show me in here, but for somehow it is not showing it. But let me tell you, against these four databases, you're gonna see the system database column that's gonna show you true instead of false. So reporting server and report server TempDB, they are not the system databases, which is good. So we can use it for query, but obviously it's not recommended to manipulate anything within these two databases, because these databases has been used by the SQL Server reporting service. So that's pretty much it. We have successfully installed reporting services, and our database engine is running, our reporting service engine is running, and we have the report server interface that we can use to build the report. So which is quite exciting. Hopefully you enjoy this video, and in the next video we're gonna look at the most important concept in the analytics as well as the data world, which is the master data management. So stay tuned for the next video. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one.